I'm unhappy with my life. Does that sound familiar? Have you said that a million times? I know that I have, so I don't want you to feel alone. Maybe you've thought it today. Maybe that's how you found me. And today I want you to know that you're not alone and there's a way to become happy in your life. If you've ever woken up one day and said, how did I get here? This isn't what I signed up for. How do I fix it? I have everything. I'm blessed with a beautiful house, maybe. I have food on the table. I have a beautiful family. Why am I so miserable? And what can I do about it? If that sounds like you, I want you to stay tuned. My name's Erin Cook. I help people just like you find freedom and joy again by simplifying and systematizing their daily lives. And that's what I'm going to do today, is make it simpler for you to understand why you're unhappy and how to fix it. It's a 3-step process. It's so empowering when you finally grasp what it is you need to do, but nobody talks about it because people don't want to talk about how unhappy they are. Well, I was unhappy for 30 years, so I want to share this information with you. If you're new to my channel, I want you to go ahead and subscribe. I do these trainings every week for you, hoping to help you find joy and freedom in your life as well. So please subscribe, and we will be together every week. Let's dive in. I'm going to start actually with a little preface to what I'm going to be teaching you today. I have a video called Defining Success. So if you haven't seen that yet, what it is it's the very first step of deciding to turn your life in another direction. Okay? And that deals with just your mindset. You might know this already, but your mindset shift is so important because we have to realize first that the reason we're probably not happy is because we're living by somebody else's rules. Society places rules on us. In order to be successful, you have to have a nice house, you have to have nice cars, you have to have the perfect kids, right? We've all heard that. You have to go to college, get a good job, get married, have the perfect marriage, have the kids, they go to school, and you have to, be the Pinterest mom and send in these beautiful little Valentine's Day treats and be the life of the party and be the popular mom. And that's not true. I lived that life for quite a while until my second daughter passed away. And it was then that I really had to take a look at my life and figure out, how did I get here? And how do I fix it? Because this is not making me happy. I had everything, and maybe you feel the same way. We're blessed, right? If you're watching this, you're probably on a phone or a computer, and many people don't even have that. So why are we so miserable? It's making that mind shift. In that Defining Success video, I'll actually link it to here as well underneath this video. So if you haven't watched that, go ahead and do that. It dives a little bit deeper into this mindset shift. And that's really the start of figuring out why you're unhappy and how to fix it. But today what I want to dive into is where we really screw up when we're starting to do this. And it's totally normal. And it's the reason that most people never become happy or never feel like they're fulfilled, because we're kind of going about things wrong. The reason we're failing is we don't really know how to evaluate what will make us happy, because we've been drilled into thinking that this, and this, success and cars and money, that will fulfill us and make us happy. So when that doesn't happen, we're not sure where to turn because we have everything on that checklist. Does that make sense? Right? We have everything on that checklist. Why aren't we happy? We need to figure out how to evaluate that. So that's what we're going to dive into today. So I want you to grab a pen and a paper, because putting this in your phone or just thinking about it, letting it flip-flop around in your head is not going to work, okay? We all know how that happens. It's like setting goals and then, letting them just sit there. It doesn't happen unless you write them down. So please write them down. I'm going to grab my trusty dry erase paper here and walk through this with you. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken lots of classes, okay? After my daughter passed away, again, I was searching for happiness, and I took a lot of personal development courses, and I went to a lot of counseling. So I want to take this opportunity to say, if there's something that you're battling with mentally, I have a history of depression and anxiety. You're not alone. So you need to take the step and get that under control, or, figure out what it is that you need to be doing in that area. If there is something physically or mentally going on, I want you to address it, and I don't want you to have any shame in that, because so many people live in that little hole thinking that there's something wrong, that people are going to laugh at them or think differently of them. I want you to get out there and try to work on that first. So what I'm going to teach you is going to be assuming that everything is in place in that area, and that we're going to move on to actually figuring out what else we can do to help ourselves, okay? So what I've done is I've taken the areas of our life. It's all about balance, right? If we have tons of money but we don't have relationship, Are we happy? No, we have to have balance between everything. And that's what this next process is going to teach you. And that's where you're going to find the areas that you need to work on today. All right, that's where we mess up. We usually take the route of creating goals and things that are easy for us rather than working on the things that really need attention. We think that more of something, maybe more relationships or more money, is going to make us happier, but it's the balance that actually creates happiness. So that's what we have to work on, and that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so there's going to be 8 areas, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about each area. While I'm doing that, I want you to write the area down, and then number 1 through 10. You're going to pick one of those numbers and evaluate your current situation in each of those categories. Okay, so 1 is going to be you're terrible in this area, you have no idea what you're doing, and 10 is like, yeah, I got this, it's perfect in my life. Okay, I don't think anybody's going to have a total 10, but maybe. We could always use some room for improvement there, but label it 1 through 10 for each area. So let's dive in. Okay, so the first one is physical health. All right. So physical health can be anything from your nutrition. How is your nutrition, your diet? How do you feel each day? Do you have a physical ailment? Maybe your back has been hurting and you haven't been to the doctors. Is there something going on that you haven't addressed? What number could you associate with this area right now? Okay, and I'm gonna go through these kind of quickly. You can always rewind this and watch it, and I really want you to sit down and evaluate where you are. So for right now, put a number so that we can walk through this exercise, but again, know that you can change this at any time and reevaluate when you need to. Okay, so that's physical health. It's kind of self-explanatory. Then I just kind of talked about it, the mental health aspect. And how do you feel as far as mentally? Are you stressed out all the time? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you sad a lot of the times? And maybe there is something mentally going on that you're not aware of. Maybe you just need to get that checked out. Okay, so right now evaluate your mental health on a scale of 1 to 10, and then your spiritual health. Now, when it comes to spirituality, I obviously am a Christian. I say it a lot, and if this is broken, if this is like below a 8 or 9, I'm really in trouble, because that's what my life is based on. Okay, if you go back to that defining success video that I was talking about, it talks about having priorities and values and morals, and that's what our life is based on. That's what I base my success on, is what I want the end of my life to be. What am I going to write on that tombstone? Is it going to be about money and my accomplishments? No, it's going to be this. It's going to be, did I serve the Lord? Okay, so if this is broken for me, even though I may be in financial distress or emotional distress, if my spiritual's not there, it throws everything else off. Okay, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but spiritual, I know that you have to have some kind of connection to a higher power, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here trying to better yourself, and you'd be living your life carelessly, let's say. You'd be running around doing whatever it is that made you happy, hurting whoever you want to, because you wouldn't believe in consequences. Okay, so I know you need to have some type of higher power, and I encourage you to figure out whether or not that is on target with where it should be, if it's in balance with everything else. Okay, so your spirituality, check that as well. All right, so this is a big one, your financial health. How's that doing? 1, are you totally broke? 10, are you a billionaire? Okay, and you don't need any more money. I would hate to have that problem. No, I'm just kidding. So your financial health, take a good look at that and give it a score 1 through 10. And then there is your living, I'm gonna put situation and / environment. Okay, so your living situation or your environment. That just means what surroundings are you in every day. It's your home, it's your city, or your village, your town, your car. Evaluate the things around you. Maybe you have a home that is constantly having something break down. Maybe your furnace is broken and winter's coming. Like, does that need to be addressed? Maybe this would have a lower number. Anything that surrounds you physically is something that you need to look at as well, because that can cause stress, right? And emotional imbalance, and it can throw everything else off, your health and everything. So again, that has to be part of the area that you assess when you're figuring out how to become happy and what will make you happy, because that's all part of the balance. So assess your physical surroundings. I guess that would be another way to put it. Okay, and then this is another huge one. This was where I was struggling. Your work / career / your purpose. So if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's where this would be, because that is totally a job. So your purpose, whether it's your work, your career, I don't want to say like your purpose is your kids, but that's your job. Obviously your kids are part of your purpose, but I really want you to evaluate what it is you do every day, okay, for the majority of your day, and really evaluate that. Is that something that could be causing you emotional stress? I know that was with me. I was a physical therapist for 15 years before I quit and became a travel agent and a coach. People looked at me like I was crazy because of the money that I was making, but the money didn't make me happy because everything else was out of whack. Okay, I hope that's starting to make sense to you, but this is something that I really had to deal with, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later on our 11th, well, I'm going to keep it a secret, never mind. So your work or career is the next part, and then these last two are kind of similar. I'm going to write it together. Your family, relationships, and your friendships. Okay, so obviously we can't be happy without relationship. God created us to be able to have relationships. That's what life is all about. And if we don't have a good relationship with somebody in our family, and I want you to reassess we're going to break it down further, but you reassess your whole family, including your spouse, your significant other, and then also your friendships. Because if your friendships are out of whack, or you have people that are influencing you in ways that maybe you shouldn't be influenced, that could be a problem and throw everything off as well. So that's why we include friendships in here too, okay? So for each of these things, you're gonna label them 1 through 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being great. Okay, I'm gonna keep going so that you can rewind this and take a little more time if you need to. All right, so you're gonna have your scores. So let's say physical 7, mental, maybe it's a 4. Kind of doing this to where I was when I had to do this whole thing. Spiritual was maybe a 6. Financial, that was okay. Living, that was okay. Work was like, I would say like a 2. And family, that was probably good. All right, you know, I was good, but I was really struggling after my daughter died with my mental and my work. Work had always been a struggle for me, and I didn't know how to change it, because without my work, I wouldn't have all the money to do all the things that I wanted to do, and I felt like it would throw this off. At the time, I didn't know about balance. I mean, I'd heard of it, but I didn't really sit down and assess it. I mean, how many people do you know that do this before they create their goals? Not many. And listen, have you ever set a goal that you achieved, and then you're like, well, that didn't make me happy, or made you happy temporarily, but in the long run, and it was like, why did I bother doing that? Because that didn't make a hill beans worth of difference in my life today. You know what I mean? I did that for a long time. 4 years of college, doing something I hated. I won't say it got me nowhere, but I'm like, why did I do that? I did that because somebody else thought it was a good idea, right? And I didn't know this process. It was only when I learned this was I able to have the courage to leave my job, start something that I wanted to do, because I knew this would be in balance, or more in balance. This will never be perfect. There's always going to be something in here going haywire, and that's just evil. That's just the devil, you know, working on us. That's just going to happen. But when we know how to correct it, oh, we're so much further ahead, right? I want you to be further ahead, because I don't want you to stay stuck. I don't want you to feel hopeless. I don't want you to feel like whatever it is that's going wrong now can't be fixed, okay? And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's move on to the next step. Okay, so this one's going to take a little bit of time, but I want to talk to you about it, and maybe you can think about these things as I'm talking to you about them. But the next thing I want you to do is take a look at these numbers that you wrote down. Maybe it's mental and work that are the lowest. I want you to find your lowest 2 or 3, okay? If you have some numbers hanging around between the 2, 4, anything under 5, really reassess what they are and pick your top 2 or 3 that you need to really focus on. Now, they're not going to be the ones that you want to focus on. Is focusing on mental health fun? No, but that's what I had to do. I had to go seek counseling, because without it, I wasn't going to get anywhere. Picking your lowest categories will not be the most fun to work on, but that means they're the ones that you need to focus on first, because if those are so out of whack, no matter how good these ones are, they're gonna struggle. They're gonna start to struggle, and you're gonna start to be unhappy. Okay, and that's where the balance lies. Okay, so pick your categories, pick your lowest 2 to 3 categories. And what I want you to do is start working on writing out a goal for each of those, okay? So in total, what we're gonna do, let me get out my fancy eraser. You wanna see it? It's lovely. I hope you got this. So I want you to write 10 goals based on those areas that we just talked about, okay? There was 8 areas, but I want you to write 10 goals. And I want 3 goals to be focusing on the lowest categories that you just labeled, okay? That 1 through 10 scale. Pick 3 goals to attack those low categories. That is the most important thing, okay? Because if I said to you, hey, write down 10 goals that'll make you happy, what would you do? You'd focus on the ones you were good at, right? Probably the ones you wouldn't need attention. If we focused on our goals that we wanted to focus on, like I love what I do. I'm recovering from being a workaholic. I'm trying very hard not to do it, but I love it so much I could do it 24 hours a day. But I have to pull back because if you told me to create goals, guess what I could create 1,000 goals about? Work, okay? But I don't need that anymore. I fixed that part and now I've almost gone overboard with that. I don't hate my job anymore. I actually love it too much. So that's why I'm telling you not to focus all 10 goals on, you know, the things that we wrote about that you're good at. Focus on the ones that we're not, okay? And then also look at those ones that we just talked about, those areas, and then finish the other 7, okay? And preferably put them in the categories that need the work. Let's talk about goal writing really quickly, okay? So 3 are gonna be the lowest category. 7, I'm gonna put other. I'll put in the, like, mid-range. Okay, the things that aren't perfect, this is what we're gonna work on. Okay, so once we figure out our goals, this is how I want you to write them. Okay, we've talked about this before, but I just want to remind you. They have to be in the present tense. So you're gonna write, instead of saying, I will lose 5 pounds in a month, okay? I don't want you to write it that way. I want you to write it as if you've already accomplished it. Now, the reason I want you to write the goals down is because if you just think about them, like I told you before in the beginning of this video, they're just gonna bounce around your head, you're gonna forget them, and you're not gonna focus on them. I don't want you to type them in your phone either, because there's a neurological response that happens when we put pen to paper or marker to dry erase board, okay? It physically makes you aware and more mindful of those goals, and that's my goal for you, is to be mindful of those goals and reminded. Okay, so once you're done writing them, take a picture of them, and that way you can keep them in your phone, because I know you look at your phone all the time. Set them to your home screen, and that way you're always looking at your goals, trying to achieve them, okay? And we know they're gonna be goals that will make your happiness improve because they're focused on getting your life in balance. See how that works? Okay, so it's so much more important to have balance than it is to have too much of something. You know, too much money will still make your life off balance. That's why all these movie stars are crazy. That's why I'm so thankful that I moved away from New York City before I became a huge actress, okay? Even though that was my dream. It wasn't making me happy. Thank God. Unanswered prayers are awesome. Okay, so you're gonna write them in the present tense, and you're also gonna make them measurable. Okay, so everything has to be measurable when you're writing goals. So instead of saying, I will be 5 pounds lighter, or I am 5 pounds lighter in a month, I guess that is measurable. Instead of saying, I'll lose weight in a month, I want you to say, I will be 5 pounds lighter on this date, or however you want to word it, but make it measurable. Because if you say, like, also, I want to spend more time with my kids, you can't really measure that. How will you know when you've hit that? Okay, so make it specific, like, I will be spending 1 hour a day with no electronics on every day, Monday through Friday, with my kid outside, or something measurable where you can just check yes or no, did I do this today? And you don't have to really think about it, okay? So they have to be in the present tense and measurable. So I want you to write a goal for each of the 10 goals, keeping in mind the 3 in the lowest category and the other one's the mid-range, okay? Now, why are these important? We're gonna put them all together, okay? If I told you to work on all 10 goals right now, you'd be overwhelmed, right? But if we put them all together by creating one more goal, an 11th goal, which I call the priority goal. Now I'll erase with my eraser and write that down for you. Okay, so it's gonna be priority goal. Your priority goal is gonna be the one that pushes you to get all the other ones accomplished. Okay, so what I want you to do after you've written all your goals, I want you to think, what one thing could I do right now that could change most of the other things that I'm going through? So here's how we come up with this. The easiest way for me is to look at all those goals and come up with a label for them, meaning what is something that it is associated with. So if I have the goal of losing weight, what do I need as far as, do I need time to hit that goal? Do I need money to accomplish that goal? Those are the big two labels that we really use for most goals. If I said emotionally I needed to work on something in my goal, right? If that was one of my lower categories, I would need time to do that, and maybe money or maybe health insurance, something like that. So what would be the one thing I would need? And what you're gonna do is label each goal. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you now that most will fall into money or time. Okay, label each one, and then you're gonna say, what is the most common theme? Is it money that I need to hit most of the goals that I've created? Or is it time that I need to hit most of the goals created? You're gonna have to balance it out. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to figure out, which do I need to really work on first? Maybe it is money, and that might not be what you want to work on, but maybe if you have more money or access to more funds or whatever, you can accomplish more of those things. Maybe it's your, okay, say it's your work like it was for me. Maybe it is emotional, and maybe your living situation where your home is, maybe you're going to be foreclosed on or something like that. You're in financial distress. But also maybe your relationship with your spouse is suffering. Something is going to give, right? But you need to figure out the way to save it the quickest. I don't want to say, and I don't want to put a time limit on it. I don't mean there's a quick fix, but what can you do that will make yourself most efficient at getting all of those other goals accomplished? Okay, so this is where I can't tell you the answer, but for me, it was I had to leave my job. Okay, even though I liked the financial stability, I liked my surroundings, I was miserable, and I was working and getting money for all the wrong reasons. So I wanted to spend more time with my family, but I couldn't do that until I got a different job. And that's where I had to figure out, you know what, time is really what I wanted, but to get there, I had to figure this part out, okay? So that's what I did. And then along with that, I was able to get more emotionally stable because I didn't hate my job anymore. I was able to spend more time with my family because I wasn't having to work so many hours outside the home. Does that make sense? It's scary. Like, these are scary things, and I'm gonna add something even scarier to it. This priority goal, I want you to hit it 90 days. That's your time limit. I want you to do whatever this is in 90 days. Because if you don't put a time limit on it that's quick, you're never gonna get there. If you say in a year I'll leave my job, guess what? You won't. Right? I mean, really, if you give yourself that whole year, you'll find an excuse to extend it longer. But if you say, okay, 90 days is what I got, then maybe you're gonna get there sooner than a year, okay? So I want you to put a quick deadline on your goal for this priority goal, okay? And again, I can't tell you what it is. And this is gonna take some time to think about. You might not have the answer right now because you haven't written all 10 goals. But I want you to think about, what's the one thing I can change now that's gonna help everything else? All those other 8 areas that we've talked about, okay? And that's gonna be the start of getting your life in balance, hence you're gonna be happier. Okay, so first think about that defining success video, and that's gonna help you realize, hey, my life is my life, and I need to live my life according to my values, my morals, and my priorities. And then once you realize that, then you can start working on your areas, not worrying about what other people think, because that's what I did forever, right? Do you do that? Do you worry about what other people will think when you leave that job, if that's your goal? What will they say about you? I was worried. Do you know I have somebody that's related to me that was mortified that I would be a travel agent? Who cares? If I worried about what he thought, I just would never have done it. But I had to let that go. And that's why that mindset shift is so great. So go to that defining success video. But then you're gonna step into this video, okay? This is the second step of the process, but it's the one that we screw up on, because we can get the idea that we don't have to worry about what other people think. But when we figure out what's good for us and how to assess our life, that's where we kind of fall short, because nobody teaches you how to do this really. You really have to be aware of knowing that you have to do it in order to find the information, okay? So I tried to break it down best I could. So you're gonna go through those 8 areas and label them 1 through 10. Then you're gonna set your goals, right? 3 of them being those low areas, the other ones being the mid-range, and then you're gonna set your priority 90-day goal. And that's what you're gonna work on. Because once you start doing that, your other goals are gonna start coming into place faster. Sometimes you don't even have to work on the other ones and they just fall in place, right? If my priority goal was to leave my job and find a new job, then maybe that house, you know, the living arrangement that we were talking about in our scenario, the house would fall into place, you know, that new living arrangement, okay? It's not something that I would have to work on separately because I have this priority goal that kind of works on everything. So I hope that makes sense to you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from it and had a light bulb moment. That is my goal when I'm here with you. And if you need more time to work on your goals, because I know we're all busy, but if you want 1 to 2 hours a day of free time, and you're probably saying that's impossible. Well, it's possible, because in my Find Your Free Time course, it's a totally free video training for you, very short, but it teaches you how to schedule your day automatically on your phone so that you're more productive, so that you can do the things that you have to get done and still have time left over for what else you want to do. You need to enjoy life again. Many people don't do that. And we know that normally we have our to-do list. If you're like me, you're probably doing this. You're making a to-do list and then you're crossing something off and adding something else at the same time, right? Not how it works. I want you to be happy and have time for you. I want you to have time to work on your goals that we just talked about. So go to findyourfreetime.com and I'm gonna help you do that. It's quick 20 minutes and you'll be able to schedule the rest of your life on autopilot, okay? Not having to think about what you need to do in the order you need to do it, and you'll have free time to do what it is you've always dreamt of doing. So head to findyourfreetime.com. Again, subscribe if you haven't yet. I do these trainings every week and I would love to have you join us. And I hope you're having a wonderful day. God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. To have, whoops, that's gonna come right off. Let's try that again.